Hello. This is the Zen Interviews podcast. I'm Zen Master Sebastian Rizzon, founding master of the Zen Art Center and the Mind Light Way School of Zen Arts. This week I'll be taking questions from one of the Zen Art Center community members, Nadia, and she will be just asking me anything that's on her mind this week. So, with that said, let's jump right into the questions. What's on your mind this week?
It's fascinating to me how, as you said, people would say, "Oh, I'm acting from the heart," or "My heart feels this or that," and like how it is about the heart, where the heart is that like bigger thing, but also an organ. Like I'm just wondering if there is something, if there is a link with the body.
If there's a link with the body through the
Like
heart?
yeah, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think the body is the vessel of our of the mind's perspective, like the same way the eyes give us a perspective for our body. The nose gives us a different sense for our body. The ears and the tongue and the touch gives you a different sensory input for your body. Then our bodies as a whole are a sensory input for our mind.
So the heart is a sensory input too for like that's intuition. I'm gonna ask you a question about that, but
I guess this is where it's a little difficult because I want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. You're asking about the heart. Are you asking about the organ or?
I don't know.
That's why I typically tend to use the word mind because the mind is not an organ. That's why in English I tend to use that word. But sometimes if I'm trying to convey a message about something you put your heart into, that conveys something deeper than if I say you put your mind into something, people might associate that with thinking. And I think when I say heart, I don't think people associate, if you're acting with your heart, that means you're not thinking generally.
So this is
that's why I'm using those words interchangeably.
But I'm noting this, I'm fascinated by this fact that when you say, do it with your heart, like that in our universal consciousness, that there is a feeling that goes with the word heart that goes beyond the organ, but I'm noting also that it is an organ. So is there, I guess my question is the heart as an organ an entry point for more information than the five senses can give you beyond pumping blood?
I think the organ of the heart may have more functions than we acknowledge, but there's a danger in looking specifically to any organ as the receptor to the mind. Because I think all of those things, heart, brain, body, they're all just concepts within the mind, and they're artificial boundaries. When it comes to the mind transcends all of those boundaries. The mind also transcends boundaries of what we would consider life and inanimate objects. You use the word universal consciousness. That's one I might tend to stay away from, only because it can evoke a lot of different things to different people. But I think it's a valid word depending on how you define it. I would say there is one mind, in that everything that exists is within the realm of the mind. We have created boundaries that say, this is my body and my mind is in here. That's your body, your mind is in there. But those are just mental constructs which separate our mind. And there are reasons to recognize certain boundaries as important, but they're only representative within the mind. So if if I poke you with a needle, you feel it and I don't. So there is a reason that we use these representations, and they are important, but they're not the truth.
So the way we use universal consciousness as a word is also a mental construct.
Yes, as is mind.
As is mind.
As is mind, as is heart. These are just pointers to something that ultimately transcends all of these words, all of these mental constructs.
So at the end of the day, there is a need to drop all the mental constructs and everything we think we know.
Yeah, this comes back to the attachments, and this is why ultimately to get to that deeper truth, you have to drop all of those mental constructs and conceptual thinking.
And some things are easier to drop than other things. It's easier to not get as upset or not get upset at all with things that happen in life. It's easier than to drop mental concepts that define how you see the world. So then you don't know how to see you don't know anything anymore, right? And it's not a good place to be. It's scary to be in that place where you don't know anything and you don't know what you know and you basically know nothing.
I think in a certain way, though, it's a more honest approach. It's more honest with yourself to acknowledge that you really don't know the vast majority of things that are knowable.
I don't think you know anything.
But you do know some things that are important. You know that you need to eat to survive, and you need to drink water to survive, and those things are important for having these experiences, which feed our mind. And so taking care of the body is important to feeding the mind information, right? And it's important to maintain your health in order to continue learning about yourself. So it's important to recognize that there is a balance between these two things that needs to be maintained. If you sit and meditate all day and you don't eat and you don't drink, you're going to die, and you're not going to continue to be a vessel of these experiences.
But we don't know we don't know how much one can live without water and without food. We have some boundaries, but sometimes you hear about some monks up there in the mountains who are sitting for a very long period of time.
Yeah, for most people it's only a few days though.
Yeah. But at least we can say that we don't know, because we don't know why for some people it's just a few days and why for the other people it would be more. And then even in we need food to survive, yes, but then most people will not know for their own bodies what kind of food works best. Unless they're really centered and aware of what the body is saying or how the body is reacting.
Yeah. And I think having what my teacher's teacher, great Zen master Sung San, used to say, keep a don't know mind. And I think that's a great way to keep yourself open to learning and understanding the way the universe works. And because I think when you start to gain a certain amount of knowledge, a lot of times you become comfortable with that. But I guess what I'm trying to be really nuanced with is, if you say you don't know anything and nothing is important, that can result in a certain type of nihilism. I think that you can use the information you're getting through these creations, through these different processes, through the creative process, through observation. This is important data to gather for understanding yourself, as well as being able to understand that it's only a representation of something that's pointing to the truth, not the truth itself. And so in that sense, you will never know. But I want people to understand, as I say this, that there is a purpose to all of this, that there is a reason, there is something, there are things to find out. And that is why having a don't know mind is important, because it keeps you engaged in this process of understanding. And that is what really delivers value to your life from your own personal perspective, is continually understanding how things in this world and in the universe work. Then you understand, when you observe these things with a clear mind, you understand how these things work, and you can adapt your own behavior to be in harmony with the way things work. And that form of harmony is what reduces your suffering and makes your experiences more beneficial to you. Whereas if you have the idea that I can't know anything, so it doesn't matter what I do, then you're going to not be aware of the things you're doing, how they're affecting your life. And if you're doing that in a chaotic manner, the most likely result is you're just going to introduce more suffering into your own life. And the whole point of the Buddhist practice is to free yourself from suffering and find harmony within the universe, within the world, and within your mind.
So keeping an I don't know mind, yet continuing the process of gathering information and discovery and creation to what the universe is doing at a universal level, to do it at a human level.
Yes, because that is what you and I are, humans, and we have the human experience to contribute to this universal mind, if you will, that connects all of us. That's the reason we can share internal feelings between each other, feelings of compassion, feelings of love, feelings of kinship. Those are things we experience that don't really have a physical correlate. So there is something between us that's connecting us that is non-physical, and trying to understand what that is and why that is. And we have a contribution as humans and as individuals to make to that understanding. Even if it's just your own personal experiences of things. You don't have to be Albert Einstein to be making a contribution. You are making a contribution in your own life. And the most important thing you can do as an individual is to understand what your purpose is here and keep looking for that. And the more clear your mind is, the more you'll understand that.
So how do you go about to find your purpose?
Well, no one else can tell you your purpose because it's your purpose. So it is your personal responsibility to understand what that is. The way I teach people is through Zen. It's to use koans, question yourself, ask yourself, what is my purpose? That's a huge koan. Ask yourself, what makes you who you are? What is the essence of your being? What is your mind? Those are huge koans. Those types of questions give your life some purpose if you really are intent on finding out that. The way I teach you to understand that and to experience that is to completely clear your mind and detach, let go of your thinking so that you can see things clearly for what they are. And when your mind is clear, you'll understand your own purpose and you'll be able to see where your path is supposed to go.
But keeping an I don't know mind, how do you know that is the purpose? You can come up to a point and then be like, well, I don't know if this is it.
Well, if you're questioning yourself, then you don't know.
Not questioning the purpose, not questioning the nature of oneself, or is it the same?
No, if you're questioning where you are in your journey, saying, I don't know if this is it, then you're not there. When you understand, you will know. You'll know 100%. You'll 100% know who you are. You'll understand the Dharma, and that is what we call getting enlightenment.
But is understanding your purpose directly linked and coming from understanding yourself? Or can you understand your purpose in life before understanding or knowing your true nature?
Well, I would make the argument that those are the same things. Your purpose in life is to understand your true nature.
But then what would you do with that? Like, there's has to be another step to it now that you know. So you're saying understanding yourself is the purpose. But then some people have as a purpose helping other people.
Yeah.
Without necessarily understanding who they are or the nature of who they are.
That's a commendable way to live your life, helping other people. So I can't answer how people feel, and if they're helping people, they might truly understand their true nature. You don't need to follow anything I'm saying or be a Zen practitioner to understand your true nature. So if someone is completely committed just to helping other people, I might speculate from my perspective that they have enlightenment, because that's how an enlightened being would act. But if someone is obviously suffering or complaining about suffering, then that's a sign that you haven't understood your own true nature. When you do understand your true nature, there is nothing else to attain. And so if you're still in a human body, then the only thing that is left for you to do is to help other people, to try to understand their true nature. And that's what in Buddhism we call a bodhisattva, someone who's dedicated their lives to helping other people attain freedom from suffering. Because if you've attained your own freedom from it, but you're still surrounded by suffering, the highest level of attainment is when all beings, we're all in this together. So you can't reach the highest level of harmony and attainment unless all beings attain that. And so if you personally attain that, your work is not done, your purpose is not done, even though you've understood your purpose. It becomes very clear at that point that your purpose is to help everybody else understand this.
So another question. How would you say meditation helps in, I guess, first making the distinction between pain and suffering? And how does meditation and Zen practices help either pain or suffering or both?
I know we talked about this a little bit in the last episode, so I'll try not to go over too much of the same things.
Yeah, maybe more in the context of a physical injury.
Yeah, so I think you have pain, which comes directly from your body, that is, something acting on your nervous system, which is causing a sensation in your body, which is telling you something is wrong. And it's trying to bring your attention to that something needs to be done. Pain is something that's coming from your body. Suffering is something that is carried in your mind. And it may be that you're sensing the pain in your mind, and that causes a certain degree of suffering. But if you're letting that pain control your mind and induce certain types of thinking into your mind, then your mind is becoming attached to that pain, and the pain is becoming a form of unnecessary suffering. When you're allowing the thoughts associated with that pain produce more suffering, more discomfort than the initial pain itself. So that is an indication of an attachment to something. Like, things happen all the time. Life is not perfect. Things come up that cause you pain. Do you let that pain control your mind, or is your mind free to go on from that?
And is in this context, is heartbreak a pain or a suffering?
Heartbreak, like loss, is a form. It's not physical pain, right? So I think we need to draw that distinction. So it is a form of suffering, I would say. It's an attachment to something that is no longer there.
But you still can feel it in your heart, physically.
You can still feel it. Yeah, and I think your mind can cause things to happen to your body. And so that's why I think it's particularly important to learn how to control your mind and use it to control your body in a certain way. You can also take things that really physically hurt, like a broken leg, and you can use your mind to convince yourself that it doesn't hurt as much. So it can work in both ways. One is an instance of not being able to understand your mind and not being able to control it and not being able to let go of things. And the other one is a way of learning to use your mind to control your body and to limit your suffering and to reduce your suffering. So meditation, which was in your original question, is one of the ways you can practice learning about your mind, learning how to control it. You learn how to focus it on one thing. You can learn how to focus it on reducing your pain. You can learn how to use it to stop thinking about the heartbreak that's causing you suffering and the loss that's causing you suffering. Those things aren't wrong or bad. They're very natural things to happen, but you can use your own ability to control your mind and to use your mind to serve you in a way that you do not have to suffer in an unnecessary way.
Sounds good. That's about it for today. Those are all the questions I had.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for your questions. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit with me and ask me these really thought-provoking questions. I will just say, if anybody in the watching online has any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or drop them in the chat. We'll try to incorporate these into future interviews, and we're always looking for good questions. And thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Nadia, for joining us. And have a great day.